To give you a little more engineering background to the photographs that you just saw, you have to imagine this building being pressurized and depressurized many times as winds come from many different directions. Therefore, even if wind comes from the north, for example, windows to the south, east, and west could also be affected and were also affected in this wind event. This cyclical pressure comes as a balloon that will expand and contract that building many times. The windows were installed in this unit, in this building, in such a way that the rapid expansion and compression of the glazing transferred the load to the window frame, which in turn moved the fin of the window, and it disrupted the integrity of the structural components of the building, the brick fascia, the buck, the sill, as you saw how that sill was rotating out. Once that was compromised, you have a water breach, and water was able to enter the building, in addition to air. Now, air enters the building therefore further pressurizes and depressurizes, and it multiplies the effect of the wind on the structure. It's not so much wind hitting the building as it is the expansion and contraction of this building many, many times over many hours, and allowing water and air to infiltrate into the building. The sill that you saw was severely compromised to the point where the glazing was separated from the structure. The dry gasket was dislocated, and it has permanently altered the metal composition of the frame to where it requires, in my professional opinion, a replacement to restore the original integrity. This is not something that can easily be repaired. When this storm has dissipated, we are left now with a weakened condition that is fatigued, similar to a piece of metal that has been bent many times and is weakened. So a similar storm that would come through, the identical storm, for example, will produce a greater effect of damage as initially was because of the fatigue and damage to the metal. We saw many examples of this that led to the water infiltration. That water infiltration has weakened other structural components that no longer have the integrity they once had. The anchors are now bent and corroded. The gaskets are now dry and brittle from being wet and dry over many storms. And the systems as a whole has now jeopardized that building to a breach where one window failure, just one window failure, could magnify that expansion and contraction of pressures so many times over that we could have a complete building failure. I've been on many projects where the front door is blown in, the garage door is broken, a couple of windows on one side are broken, and now that balloon is blown up to the point where you have roof failure, you have wall failure, and catastrophic damage. And that's where I feel this building is one step closer toward it is. It's not an opinion, it's a fact stated by our professional evaluation. There's an engineering phenomenon that's part of the building code. It requires buildings to be designed in their corner zones. Corner zones are zone 5s as defined by ASCE 7. It's a national standard for wind design. Corners of buildings, 10% of the minimum building width, experience higher wind pressures than their interior counterparts in an ideal storm solution. Now there's 4 corners to a building, actually 8 corner sides to a building. So we recognized in this building that a zone 5 effect did occur, which means that the forces and the pressures were magnified in the corner zones and created an extensive amount of damage. This damage was noted as being tried to be repaired. We saw high volumes of caulk and sealant to try to band-aid the situation, and even that sealant has been destroyed and been ripped apart as a result of average storms now that have compromised that building envelope at a much lower pressure than their original than they originally were before this large storm event that permanently altered the windows. We were able to document this, and TSSA went through every one of the 51 windows on this building unit, and was able to identify in detail under my supervision, direction, and certification all the repairs that were attempted, all the damage that occurred, and in my professional opinion, a futile attempt at any further repairs and replacement becoming necessary.